Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
I'm Jackula.
And today we're going to talk about Adult Swim Yule Log 2 Branching Out, a sequel to the Adult Swim Yule Log, which had a group of friends traveling to a cabin in the woods where they're assaulted by a serial killer family led by Pleatherface, a bunch of anal-probing aliens, a bunch of little people with portals to an alternate dimension in which they could see different timelines, and a sentient Yule log filled with the dead, angry spirits of the multiple people who died in this cabin throughout the centuries. That was the original Adult Swim Yule log. It was written and directed by Casper Kelly, who you may know as the writer and director of Too Many Cooks. And it shares a very similar DNA and tone. This sequel is a little different, but not a lot different.
Well, it's a lot different in terms of its content, but not in terms of its we're fucking with you.
Yes. This movie follows the one survivor of the original massacre in the first movie as she tries to go on vacation in order to put the past behind her, only to end up stranded in a town where she's forced to live out a cheesy Hallmark rom-com.
Yeah, and the conceit is that the film itself, because it is a movie, goes from shot like a Hallmark film to shot like a horror movie.
Yeah, the aspect ratio literally changes for each one, and the color grading changes with each one. So you'll see it go from a wide, nice and happy, bright, with primary colors everywhere, to a horror movie where it's like now the frame is a little bit like smaller, and everything's darker and the saturation's down.
Yeah, and it will change sometimes based on the character's movement. Like there's a point where she moves to one area, bong, horror movie, walks back, Hallmark movie,
yeah,
bong, horror movie.
Beyond the borders of the town is a horror movie, but within the town, it's a Hallmark movie.
Yes, yes.
But here's the thing. The Yule log from the original movie survived the events of the original movie too, and is on the hunt for her, and will tear down this new life that she has built for herself in this Hallmark town. It is directed and written by the same person, and you can tell, even though it is a very different story than the original movie.
I'm gonna warn you, the minute you hit that play button, it fucks with you because it starts out identically to the original. Within 3 to 5 minutes, it changes. But they got me on that one.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, did they just call it Yule Log 2 and there's no difference? Oh, no, there's actually something.
The funny thing is, that is something Adult Swim would have done.
Oh,
so
yes.
I would have believed it.
Yeah.
While it is 100% a sequel to the first Yule log, it is also so different that it almost feels like a completely different movie.
Yeah.
But then the weirdness happens. Now, in the first movie, the weirdness kind of starts happening and then it just doesn't stop. This movie feels like a much slower build to the weirdness.
Yes. It just gets stranger and stranger and stranger. And one of the things that's most amazing about it is that everything that happens in this movie hooks into the first one.
It does.
And if you're like, wait, what about this?
Yep.
Don't worry, they'll get to it.
And yet, it still has weird, strange left turns out of nowhere.
Yes.
Like fucking Santa Claus showing up.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Santa's here. Okay. What's he doing? Oh, he's got to stop the Yule log from destroying Christmas. He's got to put it in a wood chipper. And now we're probably getting into spoilers.
I think everything up until the dinner scene is free game, but everything after the dinner scene is spoilers.
Okay, all right. So Santa Claus throws the Yule log in a wood chipper, but the Yule log survives as a single splinter.
And you're waiting for the rest of the movie to figure out what it's going to do as a splinter. And what it does is pretty fucked up. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section.
Yeah. And that's why the dinner scene is like kind of the
That's the tipping point. That's where the Yule log's plan comes into fruition.
Yeah, because up until that point, it's just like the joke is it's a Hallmark movie, but occasionally weird ass shit happens.
It turns into a very different kind of movie after the dinner scene, and we'll talk about it, but saying it would be a spoiler, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, before the dinner scene, there is a scene where the girl's like, I was almost killed by a Yule log, telling the guy everything, and the guy's like, actually, I think I have something that may help. And for like 5 minutes, it feels like it turns into like a Brian Usna flick as the guy pulls out like a mad science device.
Oh God, the therapy scene.
Yeah.
Where he like puts her through this weird mad scientist therapy. There's the refrigerator filled with the ghosts of people who haven't died yet.
Yes. Yes.
And some characters who are definitively already dead.
Yeah, who are like practicing boxing.
Yeah, which weirdly enough does lead to something at the end of the movie, but when it first happens, you just think it's another random weird thing the movie's doing.
Yeah, well, like I was kind of trusting the movie at this point to pay that shit off, but I didn't know how they were gonna do it.
I think this movie pays off a lot of the seeds it plants
Yes.
more clearly than the original movie did.
This one is tied together a little bit better.
That's a good way to put it. It's tied together a little bit better, which makes it a more coherent experience.
Yes.
Than the original movie. Weirdly enough, having the structure of a Hallmark movie gives the movie a clearer skeleton.
Yeah, because they're so predictable.
Yeah.
You know? At one point, they even say, like, oh, be careful of the meat cutes out there.
No, it was, this town is filled with clumsy hunks.
Clumsy hunks, that's
so
right.
So there's literal plot points where she fails to do something because like a hunk accidentally trips her.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, you know?
It's like this time it's a sailor, this time it's a fireman, this time it's like an accountant.
Yeah.
But they're all studs.
Yeah.
The Hallmark jokes in this are really well done. You could tell someone sat down and watched a bunch of those terrible movies.
Yeah. They were like, all right, what's the structure of this bullshit, you know?
Weirdly enough, I like the characters, like the main characters we're following in this movie, more as people than the main characters of the original movie, even though one of them is from the original movie.
Yes. Yeah, well, like, they're full characters in this film.
Like, it feels like they actually are characters with arcs.
Yeah, whereas in the first one, it was sort of like we're making fun of stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Whereas in this movie, it's like, even though they're doing the Hallmark thing, where it's like, oh, it's the hunky guy, he's a single dad, and he's got his mom he's taking care of. Hallmark stereotypes 101.
Yeah. But then some weird shit happens. It's like, oh, it turns out the guy's actually also a mad scientist who has this invention in his fucking...
But for all the weirdness, the guy being sincere and kind is played genuinely.
Yeah. The guy playing like the Hallmark stud that she like is kind of attached to is fully committed to that thing.
To the point where I found myself actually getting offended on his behalf when she like goes on that pseudo date with the other guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm actually invested in these characters. I wouldn't say that was something that happened in the original Yule log.
No. You're just there to watch like movie stereotypes get killed.
And you're also waiting to see what turn that movie was going to take next. It's like,
yes.
Okay, now there's aliens involved. Where the hell is this going now? What the hell?
Yep.
So yeah, Adult Swim Yule Log 2 Branching Out is currently available on Max. You can go check it out on Max if you have a subscription to Max. If you have that, then I highly recommend you check it out. It is a blast and a half because it's just so weird and gory as fuck.
Yes.
It's not gory for the first 2/3 of the movie, but the last third.
When you get to the last act, it turns into a gore fest.
100%. And so with that said, my fellow gorehounds, let us move on to the spoiler section where we'll finally talk about the final act of this movie and what the Yule log does that is so different from the original movie. We mentioned earlier that the Yule log survived as a little splinter after Santa Claus threw him through a wood chipper, which is a sentence I just said. Well, the splinter ends up getting into that one character's mother, the sexy hunk that she has fallen in love with. And over the course of the movie, weird things happen.
Yeah.
Like how her ghost is in the fridge even though she's not dead.
Yeah.
But it's now explained that the ghost is in the fridge because she is dead because the Yule log is taking over her body. The Yule log takes over her body and during the dinner scene finally turns it into a full body horror tree monster woman.
Yeah, and the dad's kid starts referring to it as Grandma Groot.
Yes. It basically turns into like a Brian Usna or a David Cronenberg film in the final act.
Yeah, or like Treevenge.
Mm-hmm. Treevenge with more overt body horror.
Yeah, because like...
Yeah.
you know?
So it's literally running around, like, ripping people in half and biting them with all its splintery maw. But the other thing it's doing is it's also turning all the other logs into Yule logs. So it has a Yule log army at the end of this.
Yeah, it's got magic powers.
By the end of this movie, it's practically gremlins with Yule logs. And I love at the end of the movie when it reverts back to, like, the hallmarkness, but then there's, like, that wall of everyone who died during the Yule log assault.
Yes.
And it's just, like, thousands of people.
The last shot of the thing is every element that wasn't in the rest of the movie appearing all at once.
Yep.
Including the weird southern gentleman from the first one. I was like, oh, god damn it.
Yup. When I say I was more emotionally invested in this movie, a great example of the weirdness of me saying that is there's actually an emotional plot point involving the fact that the hunk that she's fallen in love with, his ex-wife and his kid's mother,
oh god, this
used to make chocolate-covered fudge shrimp.
Yeah.
That was apparently the most amazing tasting thing he's ever had. And there's this emotional moment in the movie where the main character finds the rest of the recipe on the ground in the shop she used to own.
Yeah.
And makes that recipe for him. And it's just as disgusting as it sounds watching them make it. And yet, she hands that fucking thing to him. He takes a bite out of it and starts tearing up. And I can feel it welling in my eyes. And I'm like, god damn it, movie, how do you have me nearly crying over fucking chocolate-covered shrimp? What the fuck is this?
This is so fucking stupid.
It's that moment where you realize, oh yeah, that's right, it's a parody. It's not a genuine movie.
Yeah.
And yet, I am genuinely invested. I did like the whole, like, vague, like, the love that remains will save the day.
Oh my god.
But what she really meant was the actual, like, ashes of her dead boyfriend would save the day if she threw it on the Yule log.
Yeah.
And then his spirit would pop up with boxing gloves and punch it. And I'm like, wait, it boxing in the fucking fridge was actually a setup. That was a good setup and payoff, but one that I did not expect.
No. This is a great comedy.
Yeah,
you know,
it's hilarious. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, where can they find you, Count Jackula?
Well, you can find me here every weekday evening between the hours of 7 and 8, where I start to stream. And if you want to follow me on social media, you should follow me on the only one that I really use at this point, which is Blue Sky, at Count Jackula, and I definitely skeet out when I am streaming. So if you just like, hey, Count Jackula up, check Blue Sky, okay.
Y'all know me, I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me on YouTube, on Twitch, on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky. Just look up the Horror Guru or Blood Splattered Cinema and I'll be there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way, and we will certainly accept more. And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, I want you to comment below, and be sure to comment below using the hashtag
GroupMom.
Use the hashtag GroupMom. That way I know, that way Jack knows, that way the whole world knows that you know what happens in the last act of this movie.
Yeah.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.